This movie takes place during the Napoleonic Wars. Russell Crowe plays Captain Jack Aubrey, who on his ship, the Surprise,
not to be confused with the Expected,
he is charged with tracking, pursuing, and if he can, destroying a different ship called the Acheron. And basically the whole movie is them just trying to track this boat.
I've heard this movie described as the best episode of Star Trek that's not an episode of Star Trek.
We put this movie in a poll with a couple of other movies we're planning on doing, and this one won it pretty handily. It's super duper foggy, and one of the watchmen says he swears he saw a shape in the fog. He sees it for like a brief minute, and he's the only one that saw it. Turns out there was something, and it starts shooting at them from inside the fog, and they get into a pretty rough scuffle. So they get pretty messed up. They're taking hits while their guns are not even in range to hit theirs. So they are completely outclassed. The Surprise takes on about 2.5 feet of water. Captain Jack basically decides we need to get in the fog with them so they lose track of us. We meet Lord Blakeney, who is probably no older than like my middle nephew.
He calls him Lord, nobody else calls him Lord.
Lord Blakeney.
Dr. Stephen Maturin and Captain Jack Aubrey are kind of sort of best buds. One plays cello, one plays violin, and they have some sick freestyle sessions at night. Russell Crowe apparently did learn some violin for this movie. He said it was one of the hardest things he ever had to do for a movie. Basically, there's a lot of folks on the ship who think they need to go to port for the repairs because of how severe they are. And Russell Crowe just kind of says, nah. We're going to fix the ship on the ship. We then find that Lord Blakeney, his arm needs to be amputated. These two boys on the ship talk about how they were eyewitnesses to the Acheron being built back on land and built a model with exact specifications to give Jack Aubrey. That's pretty lucky.
They call him Lucky Jack, so it's not that weird.
They give it to him and he's like, oh, he examines it and he like sees the science behind it and he's like, that's why it's been able to get so many miles ahead of us.
He's like Wile E. Coyote. Oh, he foiled again.
Yeah, they got to get to the Galapagos to put in those Acme orders to try to catch it.
If you're writing a story and something's too convenient, just say that your main character is Lucky. Call him Lucky Jack.
Yeah, right.
And it's instantly believable. His luck goes bad, though, after a while, and I like that. I'd say Jack Sparrow is a lot luckier than him.
But that luck is kind of fun because it's like whimsical luck.
So they're talking about Lord Nelson, and everybody's talking about what a great commander and what a great like leader he was. But you can tell that Paul Bettany's character isn't completely sold on it. And he makes a little offhanded comment about him being like, oh, I guess that means he was never corrupt. He says, do you see the two weevils on the plate in front of you? Which would you choose? Neither. There seems to be no difference between them. They're the same species. And then he responds with saying, do you not know that in the service you must always choose the lesser of two weevils? Then they all laugh. Which is a funny joke, but that is kind of the response to his backhanded comment. His response is kind of saying, well, sometimes we do have to pick the lesser of two evils. And that's a theme that carries on in the movie. I also think it's really funny that, like, the object lesson to show the two themes, they both have to do with insects.
So some time passes on, and they are able to sneak up on the Acheron and power through a storm to catch up. But as they do so, the mast breaks off of the Surprise with a child on it, and it lands in the water, and the mast starts to pull the ship down and act as an anchor.
I don't think it was a child. I think it was just a young guy.
And they have to cut the ropes to let the mast go to sea, and it means they have to let the kid die. Because that is the lesser of the two evils at play. I appreciate that Russell Crowe's character, that Captain Jack, actually cuts a lot of the ropes himself.
Yeah, he doesn't make someone else do it.
He doesn't put that on anyone else.
Heroes are made from choices, like heroes in fiction are made by their choices. So I like that this movie doesn't just have a passive protagonist, you know?
Captain Jack tells Doc that, like, hey, while we're there, you'll have a bunch of time to go around the islands and explore new species, this, that, and the other. They get to the Galapagos, but the weather isn't really good for staying long. So Captain Jack rescinds his offer to Dr. Maturin for exploring the island, and it really pisses him off.
He also accuses Jack of being controlled by his pride. There's a lot of that in this movie, though, where there's feeling and duty kind of go. There's like this push and pull between the two.
But over the next stretch of time, there is no rain on the ship, and everybody's getting pretty messed up over it.
Hallam is the guy in the very beginning who thought he saw something, and then he hesitated to make an order. The other guy actually had to make the call for him. This is at the very beginning of the movie before we even see Russell Crowe. This immediately shows us that he is already hesitant, right? And then, not only that, but it's kind of easy to miss because there's a lot going on, but in the scene where the guy goes overboard, there's a scene where Hallam is trying to save him. So but he's getting scared, and he's like holding on to the ship. His hesitation and his fear kind of seem to hold him back. And there's a moment where he tries to sing with the rest of the crew, and they like don't hear him, and so it's like little things start to happen, and they start to blame him. He's just not the type of person that's very assertive, but you kind of need to be in a leadership role. And so I'm not saying they're justified in doing this. I'm just trying to get like they do have reasons to doubt him and to think that.
Right. They just got so stressed that they all looked for a common target and found one in him. There's this moment where this kid walks past Hallam and like shoulder checks him really hard. And Hallam's just kind of like annoying, but whatever. And Captain Jack sees it and orders for Hallam to be called into his quarters. And he chews out Hallam for not scolding this kid for basically challenging his authority so directly. So the kid gets flogged on the deck. Everybody watches, and now people are saluting the master at arms.
They were mocking him, yeah.
Because they're doing like a hat tip. They're doing this, but with no hat. And he starts to take on the belief that maybe he is cursed. They start to believe him to be something of a Jonah figure. Jonah is a figure in the Bible who, when he was told by God to go perform a specific task, aka to preach in a city called Nineveh, he decided to not do that and go somewhere else on a boat. And the boat basically hit super bad weather, really bad storm, and everybody on the boat was like, hey, God's angry at us. So Jonah was like, it's me, it's my fault, God's mad at me. So they throw him overboard, and the storm goes away. And a fish of some sort swallows Jonah and swims him to his original objective and regurgitates him on the shore to go preach in the town of Nineveh. He starts to believe himself to be a Jonah figure, that the ship would be better off without him, that the crew would be safer without him. He goes up there, he takes off his hat, he picks up a cannonball, and he jumps into the ocean. We watch his face just sink into the depths because he's looking up as he's sinking. It's a pretty creepy shot. After that, it rains, and the ship has a little bit of good luck.
That's kind of fucked up.
It's kind of a sadistic twist to the story that things get better after he offs himself. An albatross, or some sort of bird unknown to science, begins to follow the boat. Some doofus decides he wants to shoot the bird, and this doofus shoots the doctor in his abdomen.
Gun safety, you guys, come on.
As far as I'm concerned, that gives us a new Jonah in this guy, but no one else seems to think so.
People accidentally shooting like each other when there's a lot of people in a confined location and they all have guns. That's not exactly out of the realm of disbelief for me.
Ugh, this stupid guy.
People make mistakes, man. We are prone to mistakes. Us humans.
We all make mistakes, but we don't all shoot the only doctor on our at-sea vessel. They take him ashore onto the island. So he does self-surgery via a mirror, and he successfully pulls the bullet out of his own abdomen along with the piece of fabric with his shirt.
Welcome to 1805. I don't blame him for doing the operation on himself. Like, if he's a doctor and he's looking at the other guy and the other guy's like drinking whiskey and shaking his hand like, I think I can do it. That doctor's like,
I don't blame him either.
I'll do it.
Must have, clearly it sucked. Like Paul Bettany did an amazing job.
Yeah. As always,
making me believe he was cutting into himself. Finally, they decide, like, hey, let's go to the other side of the island, see if we can find this famous flightless bird that we've been tracking for a little bit. And once they finally find it, they look down and see on the other side of the island is the Acheron. While they're trying to formulate a plan, one of the few animals that Stephen gets to explore on his ship is a stick bug. Captain Jack comes in, he's like, what are you looking at? And he hands him the stick. And he's like, wow, really cool, bro. Sick stick. And the one time a magnifying glass in the movie actually helped somebody is this scene.
Yeah.
is when he noticed that there was a bug disguising itself as a stick to survive from predators. And it gives Russell Crowe an idea. So in the next insect-related plot point for this movie, they decide to disguise the ship in a manner in which they will survive. They paint over the name of the surprise and call it the Siren. Since sirens are notorious for leading sailors to their deaths, they paint it as a whaling ship.
They cover their colors, like they take off their uniforms, they cover, they like put like jackets on. Another thing worth noting is the captain looks at his crew and when they're in disguises and he says, "Don't salute," after someone was flogged earlier in the movie for not saluting.
They get in sight of the Acheron, and the Acheron gives a warning shot saying, like, if you do anything stupid, we're just going to destroy your boat. The Acheron outranges the Surprise by a lot, so they need to get close to begin with. The Siren Surprise needs to get close enough to the Acheron to accurately shoot out their main mast so that they can't really get away. Before they're boarded, they fire on the Acheron and a whole big fight begins. Lord Blakeney is summoned to Captain Jack and is basically told that he's in charge of some guns. Again, this kid is like no older than one of my nephews.
I thought this was so cool when I first saw this movie because I was like the age of the kid when I first saw this movie.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, that's so cool.
And he tells him, like, in his absence, that this kid is in charge of the entire ship.
He's in charge of taking over the ship, yeah.
Captain Jack makes it towards the higher ranking officials' quarters, and a floor door opens up and this guy pops out and stabs him in the side. But Russell Crowe, disarms him and interrogates him. Take me to the captain. So they take him to the medical quarters of the Acheron. And the captain is on the table dead so. And the doctor says, "Captain said, if I die, I should give you this." And he hands him the captain's sword. We caught the Acheron. We've captured it. The captain hands off the Acheron to a soldier named Pullings and says he's going to the Galapagos to have some chill time because they've earned it. Captain Jack tells the doctor their captain was dead, and the doctor of the ship handed him the sword. The doctor? What are you talking about? The doctor on the Acheron, they told me he died months ago. And then it dawns on both of them that the captain disguised himself as the doctor who handed him the sword, and the captain is still alive and well and on the Acheron. The movie ends with them charting a course to chase the Acheron again, with Russell Crowe basically saying, well, the flightless bird you're looking for can't fly, so it's not going anywhere. We'll be back.
I'll never forget that last shot where it just pulls back and you see this vast open ocean and you see their ship following the Acheron. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's some Wind Waker type shit right there.
Yeah, dude. I love Wind Waker.
The movie is rather well regarded. IMDb throws it a 7.5 out of 10. Metacritic throws it an 81 out of 100. The movie was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, winning 2 of them for Best Cinematography by Russell Boyd, and it was a winner for Best Sound Editing by Richard King.
Peter Weir directed this film. He also directed Dead Poets Society, Witness, and The Truman Show.
It actually was shot with like 10 days at sea and 100 days at a studio. I thought they were at sea a lot more. Russell Crowe, though he came under scrutiny for his English accent of sorts. Paul Bettany, Billy Boyd, James Darcy, Chris Larkin, they did a bunch of stuff to really make sure this crew felt like a team. They played rugby together. They slept near each other. And it came through on screen. They all learned how to actually man a boat. What's funny about doing a show called Better Movies is that some movies didn't go under the radar back in the early 2000s, but they're under the radar now. Now they've gone under the radar, and we have to be like, we know this was a super popular Academy Award winning movie, but nobody knows anything about it anymore.
It's also weird because some movies could be really popular in certain circles and then really unpopular in other circles or in the grand and the mainstream.
How do you feel about this movie?
I love this movie, man. I just, when I was a kid, I remember looking, I would watch it with my dad, and I remember looking forward to the end, because I thought the end and the beginning, the battle scenes were really cool when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I remember being really bored in the middle, because it's a lot of talking, and when you're a kid, you don't understand, subtext. You don't understand, drama. Do you think Captain Jack was happy when he realized that the doctor was the captain?
Yes.
The adventure was still calling,
Yes,
you know?
I do. Part of him even liked that he got outsmarted.
You could tell he wanted to best the captain, and when he goes into the doctor's quarters or whatever, and they tell him that the captain's dead, he's kind of like disappointed. He's like, oh, I was kind of hoping for like a moment, you know?